Jealousy can destroy trust, sabotage love, and leave both people walking on eggshells. But it's more than just being insecure. It's usually a wound that never got addressed.
And let's be honest, I used to think being jealous just meant that I cared, but now I realize it meant I didn't feel safe in myself or the relationship.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Touch My Health podcast. My name is Matt.
I'm Katie.
Today, we are talking about jealousy and how it affects your relationships and affects your mental health within your relationship.
Absolutely. We're going to try to give you the how it is, or sorry, not the how it is, but like where it comes from, why people have jealous tendencies, and some practical steps to help you with overcoming it. And I don't want to say fixing it, but making it less of an issue in your life.
Yeah.
And the first part is really getting into what jealousy really is. I think some people maybe get jealousy and envy a little bit confused. The two can seem,
They can,
the feelings can seem the same, right?
yeah.
But jealousy is really the fear of losing something that you already have, usually a relationship, affection, or attention to someone else. And it often shows up in romantic or close personal relationships. It doesn't have to be just romantic. It could be, we were talking about this, you've ever had a jealous friend or like, family member.
Yeah. Somebody
So,
saying that you can't be friends with them if
yeah,
you're friends with me,
yeah,
and so on and
wanting all
so
your
forth.
time.
Yeah, where
Um,
envy is wanting something someone else has. It's that comparison almost. You want their success, the appearance, the lifestyle that they perceive, and you feel resentful that you don't have it. So,
right.
it's basically that comparison, comparing your life to theirs and wanting what is theirs. And jealousy is more like saying, I'm scared you'll take what's mine, where envy is, I want what you have.
Yeah, exactly. Jealousy is also kind of a protective response. So you have
Hmm.
that fear of loss or like that you're losing that person or losing in some way, and fear of not being enough and not good enough. And that it's just the protective response that takes over. So I know for me, like I have a serious fear of abandonment. And
Right.
so when I feel like I am going to be abandoned or someone is going to leave me or not, I'm not going to be chosen, I'm not enough, then I definitely can relate to that jealousy will kick in for me for sure. Um,
And it's almost your way of trying to gain that person back or pull them back to you.
Well, no, I'm trying to, it's protection. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to protect myself, but at the same time, I'm doing it in probably an unhealthy way because we don't want to lose the person or be abandoned or feel betrayed. And so it kind of brings out those uh, jealous feelings. And it's normally the reactions to it that are the bad parts of jealousy.
Yeah, really, you want to identify that jealousy within yourself and try and figure out, what's causing it.
Well, the scientific reason behind it is like, your amygdala just does so much stuff. It's a tiny little almond-shaped thing in your brain, and it does everything, feels like.
It does. We've talked a lot about that before, where it's almost that trigger response, and it's your threat response system that's kicking in. And we've talked about it before, where it's almost like the fire alarm going off.
It's to detect danger,
Yeah.
even if there isn't really like a life-threatening threat. It's just you feel jealous. The amygdala can get activated because your brain perceives a threat to something important, like the love, connection, sense of worth, whatever, and then it triggers that uh, response. And a lot of times, those triggers are your fight, flight, freeze response, or increased heart rate, emotional reactivity like anger or fear or panic.
Hmm.
Um, you have trouble thinking clearly or rationally, hence why some people who are extremely jealous do some crazy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And your brain is moving so fast and your heart's racing, and all of a sudden, with the way that you portray your jealousy to the person you're talking to, it comes out so mean or so rude, and you're just trying to tell them how you feel, but it comes across because you're just
Yeah,
having
you're
all this emotional response
where's
to
that
it that
triggered lady?
it's not received well. And that's really something that jealous people and the jealousy can really trigger in someone, is that overwhelming sense of anxiousness and just bad feelings within yourself. And usually it's not taken well by someone else
Yeah.
when you talk about it. So there's certainly better ways to approach uh, a sense, or there's better ways to approach it when you're feeling that sense of jealousy.
Yeah, and even though jealousy is an emotional or social trigger, your brain treats it like a survival threat. So, which is
Right.
why it can feel so intense and irrational. And it's often not that you don't trust your partner, it's that you don't trust that you're enough to be chosen. And that is the issue.
Yeah, that's that underlying issue that people may not understand within themselves, is just like what you said. It's um, that they just don't know where it comes from. Uh, is there a certain moment or moments in your past relationships that you can remember that you've really felt that jealousy
So I
or that jealous rage?
Well, yes, I have. I feel like in every relationship I've ever had, I have felt jealousy, because there was either something that happened in the relationship,
Hmm.
like somebody was unfaithful or um, was didn't make me feel like I was enough or that I was number one,
Hmm.
in their life aside from the important people like your family and things
Sure.
like that. But so yeah, I've definitely had moments where I was very jealous, especially when I was younger, which I think is a common thing for young people. And I can't imagine being a young person now with social media and the internet
Oh my
and all
God.
the comparison, because that is a big thing. I think a lot of younger people do is they see things on the gram and on Facebook or whatever,
Right.
and they're comparing themselves physically to somebody else who's probably had work done, and it makes them feel insecure and it makes them feel like, why would someone choose me when there's this out there?
Yeah. And
And I,
those filters are
yeah, catfish.
yeah,
Yeah.
you are being
But
catfished most of the
I'm
time.
trying to think of like a specific bad like jealousy instant, and um like I can't think of something that comes to my mind like a really bad episode,
Yeah.
but I
But you
mean,
remember feeling that sense of jealousy in every relationship you've
oh
ever.
yeah, everyone. Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because I have a friend who like comes to me for relationship advice, and she's like, "I know you're not a jealous person." And in the back of my head, I'm like, "Yes, I am."
Kind of I am,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just, my jealousy is a lot different now than it used to be. And my jealousy now, I understand it. And, we'll get into some of the things that help you understand it and then help you work through it. So I've had a lot of work on myself to be able to understand it and identify it and not act irrationally or out of anger or those other emotional um, reactivities or whatever that word was. So, but I know you've can definitely remember
Yeah. Yeah.
on the receiving end of a jealous person.
I've been on the receiving end, and just like I was saying, it's not always received well when that jealousy and that jealous rage kind of comes across. And that's where, if you are a jealous person, you've got to realize the emotion and the emotional reaction that you're having. And
Yeah, but tell your story. But
the time that I can remember the most was pretty wild. I was dating a girl that had moved from another state, moved down here. So she didn't have any friends. It was me and her and basically my friend group. And we would went out to the bar, I think one night after I got home from work, and we're just, sitting around hanging out. And we went down to go play shuffleboard, and we met this couple that were down playing shuffleboard too. So we kind of paired up and, played couple versus couple and then boys versus girls. And I was on the opposite end of the table, so I was with the girl in the relationship, and my girlfriend at the time was on the other end of the table.
Mhm.
And we're two couples. It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah,
And as I
I
do, I'm making conversation,
yeah.
having fun, talking, whatever. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the game, my girlfriend at the time speaks loudly to where half of the bar can hear her. And she's like, "Why don't you stop talking to her and just play the damn game?" And
Oh,
I'm
you
like,
you said it a lot nicer than you told me she said it.
Well, yeah,
You
for
kept
the
it a lot more
podcast.
PG.
Yeah, I don't want to throw all the words that were said, but that was the premise of it. And immediately I looked at her and I'm like,
But
"What?"
that's the last straw, I thought. Like
It
I
was.
thought there was other instances before that. And before she moved here, she never displayed any of those types of things. And then when she got here is when,
Yeah, when she got here, it really kind of took a toll, and I mean it didn't last long because of that. But this was the story I just told was the very last straw, and to finish the story, when I looked at her, I was like, "What are you even talking about? Like we're all having fun, we're
hmm
all conversating." And I said, "Okay, tab, let's go get the tab." And I said, "You go wait out in the truck and I'll meet you there." And I paid the tab and we left. And I
How
told her,
awkward was it for that other couple?
"Oh my God, I can only
They're
imagine."
probably like,
Yeah. And I think she was from France or French or something. She
mm,
wasn't from the United States. So I was asking questions about,
yeah.
where she lived, just making conversation, nothing
But your
crazy.
girlfriend, did she go wait in the truck? Like
Yeah.
she went and
Yep.
just turned around and walked and went in the truck?
Yeah. I told her go wait in the truck and I'll be there. And on the way home, it wasn't pretty, but I was like, I can't continue this. I can't continue our relationship and you having these crazy jealous rage moments while we're out having fun. It just completely kills the mood. So I ended the relationship that night. I was like,
Yeah.
this is the end of it. That was, like you said, the last straw. A
Straw
lot
that
of
broke the camel's back or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, it was. And a lot of the other jealousy things was because I had female friends. And I've always been a guy that has had female friends. I grew up with two females in my house. I have, a daughter. So I've always been around women. And in a completely platonic way, most of the time, I am able to have friends that are females. I have a lot more female friends than I do guy friends most of the time. So to me, it's nothing but
I was
to
gonna say, if she really knew you though, like 'cause she obviously didn't know you very well. Like anyone who knows you knows how much of an outgoing, friendly
Yeah.
person you are. So for you to sit there and be talking and making conversation, like that's just you normal. Like
It
when
is.
we go out anywhere, you'll talk to whoever it is
Right.
sometimes. Like that one day we went out to eat and you started talking to someone and I was like, oh, I did not want to talk to people today, babe. And I was like pinching you. I'm like, shut up, stop talking to people.
Yeah, or
Oh,
that or the last concert that we went to and I was like, "Hey, I came back from the pit." And you're like walking up towards us and I was like, "Hey, meet my new friend."
yeah. He's like, hey, meet my new friend. This is
Whatever her name.
whatever. And I was like, okay, hi,
Yeah.
But yeah, she
And
didn't know you very well
no,
because,
she didn't understand. She knew that I had female friends, but she didn't understand and couldn't comprehend the fact that a man can be friends with women.
well,
And
that's a totally different podcast topic because there's lots of people who would say that men and women cannot be friends.
I've had this conversation a lot of times.
Yeah.
And
Not for today.
right, it's definitely not a today
Definitely a
topic,
different
but
one.
the jealousy came from the fact that I had a lot of female friends and she wasn't okay with it, but she didn't really talk about it with me until that night at the bar playing shuffleboard, where that's where it really came out and pretty much, I mean, it
Did
was
he give you any pushback when you were like, no, our relationship's over because of this? Or was she just kind of like, okay? Because I feel like a lot of times people who act like that, there's like immediate remorse. Like, oh, sorry,
right.
but damage is already done. Like, what was she trying to backpedal and be like, well, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again?
I don't remember any backpedaling. I think she was like, I honestly didn't give her a chance. I was like, I'm done. I can't live like this. And
Yeah,
I won't live unhappy and live with this, and live with that jealousy and or jealous person and not be able to talk about it and communicate effectively.
right,
And the way that it came across was so mean and angry and then embarrassed me and embarrassed her uh, in the middle of a bar. It
yeah,
was
for no
just
reason.
my face turned as red as your shirt. And I was like, oh God, nope, we're not going to do this. Not,
Yeah, because it
no,
was not as nice as and PG as he made it sound. It was a lot worse from
it
what we
was a lot
saw.
worse. Yeah.
And I used to, like, I think about, like I said, trying to think about some of mine, but it used to be if something that I can think of is if like another woman was beautiful, confident or beautiful, I felt threatened. And so that made me pretty jealous at times. But now I realize like my jealousy was kind of like a mirror. It showed me where I was insecure and where
Mm.
I felt that I wasn't enough.
So would it make a difference if a woman was not secure or not beautiful if the person you were with, say me, right? I'm talking to a woman that's not very pretty. Would it make you feel the same way as if I was talking to a pretty woman? Does that make a difference?
So I would say yes, as bad as
Okay.
that sounds.
All right.
I think, and I'm just speaking for me, but I do think this is how a lot of jealousy works for males and females, is if
Hmm.
the person, if it's a romantic relationship and your partner is chatting up or talking, or even has a friend, knows someone of the opposite sex and they're very attractive. I think that makes you feel more jealous than if they were not as attractive. Now, I just had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day about how there are guys out there who have tens at home and will cheat with fives. Like, it's not always about look.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not.
It's about availability
It's about
sometimes. Yeah.
availability and some other things. Doesn't make it right, wrong, or indifferent, whatever. But I know that if if I'm thinking of me personally,
Mhm.
if the woman is more attractive and more confident and has this sort of like, yeah, that will definitely probably spark my jealousy more than if she wasn't. But that's because it goes back to me. It makes me feel like, am I not enough? Am I not going to be chosen? Is she better than me? Will he, if, would he pick her over me?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
kind
And
of
it,
thing.
it kind of starts that turmoil in your own brain
Yeah, you
of
start
what is he thinking?
spinning.
Is he trying to get with her or yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And jealousy can impact the relationship in a bunch of different ways.
Hmm.
Some different ways that can really impact it is when someone starts over monitoring. So, like constantly asking you, what are you doing? Where are you at? Who are you with? Who else was there? I know in my previous marriage, when I had, it made me think of this when I had some bits of jealousy, and I would ask, who was going to be where because he would go out a lot. And I'd say, well, who's going to be there? And it wasn't that I was necessarily like needed to know every person, but it was because I knew one, he had been dishonest about who was in places with like where he was at, and he knew they were going to be there, and he just did that
Omitting the
omission and
truth.
not
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I didn't tell you," or "Oh, I didn't know." And then it was always related to when he would hang out with certain people. So that's why I started asking, "Well, who are you going to be with?" Because I knew if he said a certain name, I'm like, "Oh, that means he'll probably like so and so else will probably be there." And it just there was other things that had happened that made me feel again started to feel very insecure, like I wasn't enough, or like he was going to do something that maybe would jeopardize our relationship. So and then it can also lead to a lot of controlling behavior, I think.
Yeah. And not just in women, but men too. It
Oh, yeah, this is
certainly
definitely
be
not a
the opposite sex as well. I'm typically not a jealous person, so
no.
I've been on the receiving end, but I think it comes from a lack of self-confidence. And when you aren't confident in yourself or in your abilities or even confident in your relationship or trust your partner, I think trust has a lot to do with it too. That's where that jealousy really comes from, is the self-confidence and not being
100% to trust your partner.
yeah, not trusting your partner 100%. And that's a huge one. Omitting if you're asking, "Hey, who you going to go hang out with?" and you don't say everyone, knowing that one person that is going to be there that you're uncomfortable with,
Hmm.
that's lying. That's omitting a fact that you know is true, and that can certainly cause a lot of relationship issues. And
Hmm.
I can understand the jealousy from that side.
Yeah. Well, and then, yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's a damaging cycle, really.
There's
It,
a lot of passive aggressiveness that can
yeah.
go on too.
Mhm.
Just saying and doing things to be, petty.
Yep.
Um, a lot of emotional shutdown, just completely like,
Right. Yeah, it's a damaging cycle. You've got jealous thoughts lead to insecurity, lead to controlling actions, leads to partner withdrawal, which leads to more insecurity, and it's just that
which leads to the
vicious
jealousy.
cycle.
Yeah, it's like a circle. It's
Yeah,
like a circle.
it's just insane, that if you can identify that within yourself, that whatever is sparking that jealous rage or that jealous emotion, that's where you can really, I guess, learn to identify what's triggering you, and then learn ways to cope
Hmm.
with it, and talk to your partner, talk to whoever is making you jealous, and let them know, how it's affecting you in the moment.
Yeah. And I think of our relationship and we haven't, I mean, you're not really a jealous person. Like it's
No,
just not part of who you are because you are very confident in yourself and very self-assured
but I also
and you
trust
trust
you.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I, you know. I tell you if I'm feeling a certain way.
Mhm.
There's not a time that I can recall, or I don't know if you can, where I was je felt jealous about something and I didn't bring it up to you in a healthy-ish kind of way.
No, we've had
Healthy-ish, I said,
yeah.
kind of like, I mean, for the most part, no, I mean, but
We have had a conversation about one person in particular, and you're like, "Hey, I feel uncomfortable with you talking to this person." And we talked about it, and I was like, "Okay, if that makes you uncomfortable, if that makes you feel a certain type of way, then I choose you over that person." And I wrote that person a note and or a text message
mhm,
and I showed you and then cut them out of of my life because to me you mean more than me talking to this other person.
yeah.
And is that enough for you? Is that enough for someone else?
I mean, it was enough for me,
Okay.
but
So if you're able to bring it up in a effective communicative way, then that should be a really good way to explain your feelings and how you're feeling about it, right?
yes, and I think both of us have been on a healing journey. You started yours a lot earlier, than I did. I kind of started mine right before we started dating, and so you've been like a part of mine almost, this entire time.
Hmm.
And I have learned a lot about myself and about why I am the way that I am. And so obviously jealousy is one of the, characteristics or traits or things that I had that I knew I'm like, I have to work on this. And not that I was such a badly jealous person that it affected my relationships, because that's not what affected any of my relationships. It was there, but it wasn't a bad, like horrible thing.
Yeah.
Um, there was never a time where any of my relationships were about to end because of my jealousy. So, but it is something that I didn't like about myself. And I knew that when we started dating and us being together and how outgoing and friendly you are, and like you do have a lot of female friends, like that was something I was going to have to learn to communicate about and figure out within myself why I feel the way I feel. And it was a lot easier because you made it easier because you were always so very open and honest, and I would talk to you, or I would tell you things, or I would say things to you, and you wouldn't jump down my throat. You wouldn't get defensive. You wouldn't try and turn it around on me. You wouldn't, blame or shame me or do anything. You were just always very helpful, and we always talked about things in a healthy way. And anytime we did come into conflict or if something happened, how we resolved it made me feel so much better. So it was so much easier to move on and move
Hmm.
past it.
That's a big thing in that healing process of mine is I had to accept the way that people feel and allowing them to have those feelings.
Hmm.
Saying rather than saying no, you're wrong, uh, you're crazy or you're just being super jealous. You have to accept the way that someone is feeling. And uh, when you came to me and told me that this person makes you uncomfortable, rather, like you said, rather than shaming you, I was like, okay, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you coming to me.
Hmm.
And if that's the way that it makes you feel, then that's it. And accepting your feelings and being able to talk through it really made such a big difference in our relationship, and I think can make a big difference in every relationship because the way that you approached it and the way that I accepted it, I think is such a huge way of conflict resolution, effective conflict resolution.
Yeah. Well, and I remember the one time, like we had been dating, I don't know how long we've been dating, it was a couple months, and you had a friend, this one friend, not the same person, but
Hmm.
I had asked you, I was like, I don't want to just hold this in. I want to say this, but I feel like this friendship is a little bit different than your other friendships. And I don't know if that's in a like what way that's in, but it just like because I'm a very analytical person, but I'm also very I feel like I can pick up things pretty
You're intuitive.
yes, that's the word. I was like,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm very intuitive, and
Right.
I have been that intuition has been pushed down and blocked, and I've been told, oh, you're just crazy or this or that or
Hmm.
the other, and so I've ignored it. And then when I stopped ignoring it, and I said, I'm not, because a lot of times my intuition was right. So when I was like, I had this intuition that this friendship was a little bit different, and you were like, well, yeah, it is. I mean, because she's had a closer relationship with my daughter and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But there's, nothing going on. And I totally understand like why you would think that. And,
Yeah.
and then I like,
I
yeah.
had to explain the relationship.
And you even showed me like, you're always like, here, look at my, read the messages or whatever and look at it. And then, I mean, and we know her now. And I mean, I know her now and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Like there's no,
Right.
not,
Yeah,
not worry
and
about it.
that's something to note also is if you're feeling a certain type of way of someone, then if there's nothing going on, you should you as the person being talked to or confronted, if that's the word you want to go with, if you're the one being confronted and there's nothing going on, you should have no problem showing the
Mhm.
messages between you and that other person
Right.
and showing proof that
Hmm.
nothing is going on or there's not some underlying you know
Yeah,
a discussion of future plans or whatever. But you as the jealous person also have to remember, and this is something for the audience, you guys to listen to also, is your past relationships don't define your now relationship or your future
absolutely.
relationships. You're not dating the same person. If you're dating
You can't hold that
somebody
person accountable for someone else's mistakes and wrongdoings.
100%, you can't hold me accountable for something that happened in your past relationship.
Right.
And because I'm not that person, I'm not the same guy. I'm not the one that hurt you, and I'm not the one that cheated on you. So I
Right.
shouldn't be bashed for that. I
Yeah.
shouldn't be
And
held
if
accountable
and if
for
that person starts acting like that other person, you need to get the hell out of there and not stick around.
100%.
Um, yeah. But so there are some healthy ways to try to navigate through um the jealous feelings and the jealousy that comes up. And something that I know I do, and now I do it in other situations, but deep breathing. So it's kind of a self-regulation technique. So before you start letting, that feeling start consuming you and you feel, your heart starts racing, blood starts
That
rushing,
jealous
you
rate
know,
starts, yeah.
just take a
Woosah.
deep breath,
Yeah.
name what it is, name the fear, the why. I tell myself, okay, just stop for a second. And why do I feel this way? Like, really, what is it? Why am I feeling jealous right now? What is the problem? Like,
Like a body
really?
check in, like
Yeah.
why is my body
Little
feeling this
pep
way?
talk with
Yeah.
myself. Like, okay, come on.
Right.
Like, hold on. Before we go lose our shit,
Yeah.
let's let's check in here and let's
Yeah.
see what's really going on. And having kind of like that inner dialogue, and stop sitting there saying, "Oh my God, they're going to leave me," and shift it to, for me, I say, even if they leave me, I'm fine. I will be okay. I will
Mhm.
be okay. I'm safe. I'm fine. I may be afraid right now, but I will be fine. Even if I will be okay.
And sometimes them leaving is the best thing for you.
Well, nine times out of ten, they're not going to leave. That is you overreacting. Sorry. But
There you go.
that's your amygdala making your whole body go crazy and
Uh,
feeling, that fight, flight, freeze and all the emotional regulation and the heart rate and you're like, "Oh my God, they hate me or they're leaving me or they're this and that." And meanwhile, you know, they just said hi to the stranger next to you because they're a friendly person and you're like, "No."
right. And in the moment, you have to have those transparent conversations and don't be blameful or don't accuse.
Hmm.
Don't make those
Oh, yeah.
accusations that, you're hitting on that person, unless obviously you have proof of that. But if they're just having a conversation, it's okay for you to walk up, say to me, and say, "Hey, I feel uncomfortable right now. Like pull me aside. Obviously, don't
Yeah.
do it in the middle of the bar and make an ass out of all of us. But
Yeah.
you pull me aside and have that transparent conversation and say, hey, something fell off. I don't feel right now. That it made me feel uncomfortable when you were talking to that person.
Mhm.
And I think that's a huge part of identifying that jealousy, and it creates those secure connections with your partner, or you know with the person that you're trying to build a future with.
Yeah. I mean, instead of saying, like you said, why are you talking to them? Try saying, like, yeah, I felt uncomfortable when I saw that.
Hmm.
Can we talk about it? It's so much not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah,
That is so important.
and tone matters. The tone
Yes.
of your voice matters in how it's going to be received.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like that's you could say that about anything. Like it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You could literally be like, you're being a bitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you could say, listen, I think maybe you're something going on because you're acting a little out of character, a little testy. I don't know, but is there something you want to talk about? Like,
Maybe you're just
you
hungry.
just, yeah. When's the last time you ate?
Yeah.
Is it that time of the month? No, I'm just kidding. Don't
Right.
say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, two totally different ways. It's not in what you say, it's how you say it. For
Yeah.
sure.
And that's going to make such a big difference in the way that it's received from the other person.
Yeah, for sure. Now, how do we become less jealous?
Hmm. That's a really good question.
I ask you, the man who's not jealous. I would say, well, ask me.
Okay.
Okay.
How do you think you have become less jealous in your life now versus your past?
Well, um,
Is there anything
first,
that you've done?
well, therapy. I mean, that's been very helpful. But taking
Okay.
a really hard, look in the mirror, self-reflection,
Hmm.
um, journaling. When do I feel most insecure? What would I need to feel safe right at this moment?
Do you think
Um,
journaling, maybe if you're out, right? You're out in public and you are feeling that way, you're not gonna
Write it down.
write it down right now,
No, but that's where you
but
have the inner dialogue in your head.
maybe, yeah.
I mean,
But
yeah, I'm
maybe you
like
can go home and then write about it.
you write it in notes
Yeah,
in your phone. I've done that, but really
that's good.
stopping myself and be like, okay, why do I feel insecure right now? Like, what do I need to do to feel safe? But also limiting, becoming less jealous, trying to limit what you have recognized or know is a trigger for you. So if you know that like social media comparison is something that, you're sitting there scrolling and you're looking at all the Instagram models or, people on Facebook and they're doing this, that, and they're just, you're sitting there envying things that they have and it
Hmm.
makes you jealous
Hmm.
because you think you're not that good or you're not as good. You're just comparing yourself. Like, so stop scrolling on social media. Stop following um, pages or people or things that are going to just put that stuff in your algorithm. I forget who it was.
Right.
Mel Robbins, I think, said, look at the people you're following. That's going to tell you a lot about yourself and like what like kind of where you are in the mind game, like where you are mentally,
Yeah.
you are what you feed your brain. So start following people or things that you want to be more like, or you
Yeah.
want to gain more education or knowledge in. So
Some of that positive mindset for sure.
yeah. But yeah, don't, and if you're someone who like, oh, we've heard this on the radio that like does the like relationship testing. So I'm going to test you
Yeah.
to see if you choose or you do this or you flirt with what was it that you said you heard on the radio?
Yeah. It was it was like a an awkward Tuesday from the Brook and Jubal show.
He loves that. Mhm.
I love listening to those. They're so funny.
They
But
are.
this woman called a show, and she was the woman that was paid to go hit on this guy. And
So someone paid this girl to go hit on her boyfriend.
yes, the girlfriend paid another woman to go hit on her boyfriend to see what her boyfriend would do to test him. And he politely declined and said, you know, you're a beautiful woman and any man would be lucky to have you. I'm with my girlfriend. I love my girlfriend, and basically sent her on her way. And the the awkward part of it was she wanted to tell him what kind of girlfriend that he had. And when she told him, he's like, "Oh yeah, this isn't the first time this has happened. This
My
is
God.
you're not the first one." He goes, "I've I've had this happen two or three times, and you're just another one." And he goes, "I
That point, it's like, how can you really test him? Because he's always going to say no because he thinks you're out there testing him, like to every girl. Like how, I mean, that's besides the point.
that is
Doesn't matter. His,
serious
but
bad behavior from the girlfriend's
yeah,
standpoint.
yeah.
That is not a trusting relationship." And
And why is he still in it?
he told the show that he was done with that girlfriend. He was done. And then the girl that was paid asked him out on a date. And he was like, "What? What the hell? No, I'm not. No, I'm not going out with you."
He's like, it's probably another trick.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah,
So
but people who do that, that's
that relationship testing is
mm-mm,
awful.
don't do that
Just to find out what my boyfriend or my girlfriend will do, that's toxic behavior. You don't want
for
to
sure.
participate in that.
Um, yeah, but so, back to how can you be less jealous, limiting those kinds of triggers. So
Hmm.
that's the social media comparison, relationship testing. If that's something that you're doing, please don't
Yeah,
do that.
stop.
But it's really a lot of inner work. I mean, that's what it boils down to. It's a lot of um, therapy,
Self-help.
self-help,
Yeah.
in whatever form that looks like. Just validating yourself, telling yourself all the time, like, I am enough, I'm good enough, speaking positive things into yourself, positive mindset,
Yeah.
inner child healing, if a lot of your jealousy could stem from, childhood traumas and
Mhm.
things like that,
Just remember that jealousy isn't a flaw.
right?
It's feedback to yourself. It's letting your inner self know that you're feeling this type of way and figure out what that cause is.
Yeah, it's saying, there's an issue here, there's an underlying issue.
Hmm.
Let's figure out
Identify it
what it is for
and
sure.
correct it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can or want to make it better, you have to start by being honest with yourself. It's not about fixing your partner because 99 times out of 100 your partner isn't going to change, but it's about seeing your own wound and choosing to heal it. You have to heal whatever is causing that jealousy. And you'll see a mental shift in yourself, and you'll find yourself a lot more happy if you can live with less jealousy.
Oh, absolutely. So I would ask our viewer audience. What's the one thing that you wish your partner knew when you're feeling jealous?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Drop the answer in the comments. Share this video with someone you love, or maybe somebody that as you're listening, this reminded you of them. Share this with them, and then as always, leave in the comments on YouTube any future
Yeah.
episodes and any topics that you'd like us to discuss, because we are always coming up with new topics on our own, but we are always open to talking about
Something
topics
else.
that interest you,
Yeah.
because it's fun for us. We drop new episodes every Monday. So we'll have time to prepare, but give us some comments, and we'll see you on the next one.
Hey, thanks. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye. Thank you for joining us today. If you learned something and our stories resonate with you, subscribe to our podcast. That's a zero-cost way to support our channel. You can also follow us on Spotify, Instagram, and TikTok. They're linked in the description of the episode. We'd love for you to put any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes in the comment section on YouTube. We'll read them all. Again, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your interest. And as always, we remind you to be the best version of yourself. See you next time on the Touch My Health podcast.